hit it.
I'm hitting it. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it goes live. Hopefully it's live right now. Hopefully people can actually see me and you being live. That would be exciting. But I don't
Yes.
know if that's actually going to happen or not. I don't know. Hopefully the video is good. I don't know what's going on with the video connection. I don't
Well, the
know.
video quality is good. I can't check the audio because if I do now, the audio actually be happening or be audible in this whole stream.
Yeah, no, I
So,
gotcha. So hopefully people are starting to see that we are live separate from that of Star Trek Online, and that will start to appear on people's radars. But
so
I don't
that
know.
stream never happened. There never was
Yes,
a
that's
tweet.
it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that stream. I don't know what you're talking about. We've got our first viewer. It's Matthew Reed. Welcome, Matthew.
Hello.
Thank you for tuning in. I don't know if anybody was trying to watch us not play Star Trek Online, but that for some reason was not functioning at all. So thank you for swinging through. And I don't know what the deal is. We'll have to figure that out on the back end. What's going on, SC? How's everybody doing today? Don't have too much going on. I think I'm joined, for those of you guys who didn't catch our preview disaster stream prior to this one, I am joined today by German Trekkie, none other than GT, who's run a fantastic Star Trek YouTube channel. How are you doing again? How are you doing now?
Well, I'm pretty good. And what stream are you talking about? I can't remember
Yeah,
now.
that's right. Yes, the one that
But
never, ever occurred, and we'll never talk about it ever again.
nah,
That's
no,
it.
no, no.
That's the plan, and that's what we're sticking with. So, anyways, so we're just going to be talking a little bit about Star Trek today. I know the original plan was to do a little Star Trek Online Let's Play, but like I said, we're having some technical issues with that, right? Meow. So we're just going to slide on over and talk a little bit about Star Trek in general. So, question for you. We're going to talk about Picard first, and then we'll kind of maybe roll into maybe some of the other shows and stuff like that. But from your perspective, we're 5 episodes in. Which one of these episodes would you probably say is your favorite so far out of all of them?
Well, that's basically a very hard question. I think every single episode we had on Picard was great. They were fantastic. Each had definitely their upsides and also their downsides. But I think that you can judge a show very well on their pilot episode of it. And I'd
Yeah.
say that the Picard pilot was extraordinarily good. I mean, I've been sitting in my chair and crying literally just seeing the Enterprise D in the first scenes.
Yeah,
The
okay.
the intro itself, I liked it very much. So I have to probably go with the first episode. And that's actually something rarely happening for me. That the first episode is the one that really hits it on point.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you there. I would say that for me, it definitely is a toss up. Episode 1 is probably still my favorite, but episode 4 is kind of like really a close second for me. It was just a really fun episode. I really, really enjoyed it. Even though I kind of complained a little bit about the Narek and Soji love plot a little bit, but
Yeah.
I did really, really enjoy their whole kind of episode in general, and kind of like the little grouping with Elnor and bouncing around on the Romulan colony and stuff like that. It was pretty cool for me. I did like it quite a bit. But yeah, that means seeing the D out there again in the first episode, seeing Data again in the first episode, doing all those things, like it was really cool. I did absolutely enjoy that episode for sure. And I think it's probably going to stay that way just because it was so exciting to see everything back again
Indeed it
for the
will.
first time, you know?
I mean,
Yeah.
before we did this, before we started doing the Never Happened stream, and before we started doing this one, I actually have been listening to the Star Trek Picard soundtrack for the season one, that is available on Spotify. So if you want to check it out, it is definitely something great. I mean, the soundtrack itself it's just beautiful, and it's just perfectly accompanying the episodes themselves. I mean, in the first three episodes, we get a lot of Starfleet HQ, San Francisco, and we have this beautiful TNG score playing, this
Yeah.
remastered version. This is just perfect for the show. I mean, the soundtrack is perfect.
No, I agree. It is really well done. I know a lot of people didn't get super jazzed about the theme song, but I actually thought it was really well done, and I think the scores were perfect. The Seven score was perfect. I thought a lot of that stuff was really great, and I don't know. I don't really know what people are expecting. I mean, I have nothing negative to say about past Trek theme songs or music and stuff like that, but I would say that like it was always kind of like it was good, but I think the movies kind of outclassed the shows in a lot of ways, in my opinion, because obviously it has more money and more budget and stuff like that. But when you consider that this is just a streaming show and not a feature film, I think the music is fantastic. Like it's top tier. It's like up there with the effects, I think. Even though I know people have problems with that too.
I don't know. I think when you get a show in this, or when you show or start doing a show in this era in our days, then people have to really get used to it that the visual effects won't be like it used to be in the old Star Trek shows. I mean, you could theoretically try doing way, but it wouldn't really fit. And I always love how to see how visual effects progress. And I mean, we had that in Star Trek. The
Right.
visual effects are different in each show. I mean, TOS had like practical effects. They did the same thing with TNG. They did the same thing with the TNG movie, with
Yep.
the first one. They had practical effects, but then they moved on to the CGI effects, which made the show, a bit more like gave the show more possibilities to do, because when you have a practical model, you're limited in what you can do. But when you have a 3D model, you can basically do everything. You can simulate space very detailed and very great.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So
Yeah.
nothing about the visual effects to say, and the music score is just perfect for Star Trek Picard. I think it really fits Picard's character, especially the theme song. Where
Yeah, me
what you
too.
said earlier about the theme songs, that you can't really complain about any of them. I always find it funny that people dislike the Enterprise theme song, which I found was actually perfect for the show, because the show was kind of telling the story, of humanity reaching out into the stars, and it was just perfect for the show itself.
Right.
So
No, I agree with you there. I do, man. And I think that when you each theme song, I think people when they did TOS to TNG, they were obviously trying to make a lot of strong parallels between those two shows with the theme, and then DS9 and Voyager had a lot of similar themes, but they were also a bit more curtailed to that show's tone. And then Enterprise obviously went way off the rails with its more, I should say more hip, I guess, song, if you want to call it that. But even that to me wasn't. I mean, I think everyone's like enjoys making fun of it, but it also wasn't the worst thing in the world. And this one, for Picard, I think is absolutely perfect. And and people don't talk about this too, talk about theme songs. I really like the Discovery theme song too. I like
oh
Discovery's theme
yes.
song, and I find myself
Mhm.
humming it more often than I realize because I don't even really equate it to the show. Because in some regards, it's almost the tone of it is a little bit more lighthearted than the show is very heavy, with themes and stuff. But yeah, I like all those themes here. So we're getting some comments here. Looks like Phil Ray 81 says devastated about Icheb. It was very devastating, but I talked about this in my my review video, and I think that it was really well done the way that they set it up. It was obviously very impactful, very serious, to have that feel inside of the show at the beginning. But I thought it was well done. What did you think, man?
Well, the start, I were at the beginning of the whole episode, and I was like shocked to see that. I at first didn't realize that it was Egypt. Then it kind of became clear to me when I saw like the marks of his implants that were around there, and the way his nose was
Yeah.
built up. And I was thinking, wait, what the hell is going on now? I was really shocked. But I thought that this was a great start to the episode, and you kind of have to give credit to those people who wrote like the beginning or wrote the entire. in order to give Seven this kind of character depth, because you don't know what has been happening to her over the past years. She was around in
Mm-hmm.
the Alpha and Beta quadrant. You don't know. But
Right.
then, like, this thing happening to her makes her character a bit more understandable, and the way she is now. It's just a perfect start to the episode. I really thought. It just
Yeah.
shocked me seeing on Amazon Prime that it has an R rating. I just thought, what the hell is going on now? It's
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely more brutal than I was expecting. But like I said, in my review, like it sets up the whole situation of the tone of the show, but it also adds a layer to Bajazel, the villain in the episode, which I think it wouldn't have been that bad, but I feel like it elevated the seriousness of what was going on with the kind of more goofy scene on Free Cloud of them kind of dressing up and playing around and having fun like that. Is I feel like it added like a layer of tension there that without that scene at the beginning, seeing what was happening, we wouldn't have felt that. We would have just been like people talking about how this is a bad lady and how she's running a bad organization without actually the audience experiencing it. So I think it was pretty smart of them to demonstrate that. I don't know. I don't know if they went overboard. I don't feel like they went overboard with the
Nah, they
violence.
didn't.
I don't feel like they did. It was obviously a little bit more tonally graphic than some what we've seen in the past. But obviously, Star Trek has always had some pretty gruesome things happening, whether it be from sexual assaults to rapes to drug abuse to people being exploded by lasers or people being sucked into space or planets eating a whole population. There's always been some very serious stuff in Trek, but I don't think it was that bad. Greg Hopwood, thank you for the $5 donation. It says Icheb's beautiful uniform though. Greg Hopwood, Star Trek Picard's costume concept artist here. I love your channel, Ketwolski. Well, Greg, thank you for swinging by. Costume concept artist. His uniform looked great. I personally really like the old school uniforms. I say old school, but the ones we're seeing in the flashbacks as opposed to the ones we're seeing in the current Stardate. I think that the ones that Picard and Raffi and them were wearing were really cool. What do you think about the uniforms, GT?
Well, as I am a great fan of uniforms themselves
Mm-hmm.
and I of buying them, I simply want to have this uniform. It's just I think they're beautiful. You know, the Picard uniform not only gives Star Trek like a new vibe, it not only shows the progress of the whole thing,
Right.
but also it's just good to look at. You see the uniform and you can immediately associate it with Star Trek. You don't have to see a Delta badge, anything like that. You just know it's Star Trek because of the color tone and the way it is made itself. And if somebody's going to sell those uniforms in any soon time, I'll definitely buy one. I mean, for now on, I've been just buying those uniforms because they're great.
I've already seen a couple of cosplays set up with the. I don't know if I've seen them with the old flashback uniforms, but definitely the one that like the receptionist and Commodore O and everybody's wearing current time period. I have seen them kind of wandering around in different kind of cosplay conventions and on Instagram and stuff like that. I think they look pretty good. I like them quite a bit. But yeah, I definitely like the old schooler ones that Picard and Raffi were wearing in the flashback sequences. I think those were really great.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that we got to see them because obviously we saw them in the Countdown comic, which they looked cool there. But I'm glad that somebody was like, no, we're going to spend the extra few $1,000s to make a few of these uniforms so that way we can have them during flashback sequences. It was pretty cool. It was definitely really cool.
I definitely like those that we saw in the flashbacks than those we see now in our time. When Starfleet goes to when Starfleet, yeah, when Picard goes to Starfleet HQ. These uniforms, they're great, but somehow I feel like they're a bit they're not really so fit for uh being for someone who is going to do some field work someday, fly around a in the universe with a starship,
Right.
landing on some planets, running around there. The other ones are just, they fit more tightly than the ones we see um in the in Starfleet HQ.
Mm-hmm.
the ones we see in the flashbacks just for me make more sense, and I personally think they're more beautiful to look at than the ones that we see in the present day. Or
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, and I'm wondering if that's going to be part of the some of the discussion. Maybe is that Starfleet is kind of rotting from the inside outwards, and part of that is the uniforms not looking as good, or maybe some of the things not being as pristine as they were previously, because obviously this is going to somehow connect back to what happens inside of Star Trek Discovery season 3, where we know that there is no
yes.
Federation anymore and it's fallen apart, and obviously that's many like several hundred, if not 1,000 years away, or maybe not 1,000 years, but it's several hundred like years after this season of Picard, and laying too much of the groundwork I think would make it seem kind of silly, but I think maybe we're seeing some of that. Maybe that's why the uniforms don't look quite the same, as over time these things started to get worse and worse. I don't know, but it is an interesting idea. But yeah, I agree with you though. The flashback ones are definitely better. Greg has donated another $5. Thank you very much again. It says, those are the ones I worked on. I've been releasing the concept art slowly on my Instagram posts, hoping to release the uniform concept art soon. Yeah, I can't wait, Greg. I can't wait to see what some of the other designs were, because obviously I know that, when you do these kinds of projects, you work on multiple different looks, and I'd be curious to see what some of the other ones that got left on the editing floor of your studio didn't make the cut. I'd be curious to see what some of those look like.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah, that'd be kind of interesting for sure. So yeah,
Well, what I
so
wanted to
all right, go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
ask about Star Trek uniforms is that uh, every time a new Star Trek show or Star Trek movie airs, complain about it for some reason. I have absolutely no idea why, because I personally think that it is logical to see different uniforms. I mean, in the whole Calvin Time movies, we get a different uniform per movie, basically,
Yes, yeah,
which, well, was great because it, first of all, showed that Starfleet is evolving. But people at the beginning of Discovery had the same issue with the Discovery uniforms, which I think are beautiful. And they actually make more sense because if you put a one color tone and you are basically some kind of, I mean, Starfleet is not a military organization. There are enough people pointing that out, and I did that too. But if you're doing something that remotely is like some kind of military, you don't want to really put like many different colors on the uniform. Just stick with one, or make something that's more camouflaging. However, you don't need to really camouflage stuff in space. That makes no sense.
right.
Therefore, the space force uniforms are kind of weird. But the Discovery uniforms, at first I had my issue with them too, because they were like a bit weird for me. But then after getting it through the first season and actually getting one of those Discovery era uniforms, I grew to like them, especially when they showed up with the Constitution uniforms that they wear during Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 1, Brother. I mean, that one was the uniforms Pike and the crew of the Enterprise were wearing. Those are pretty damn cool. I mean, they're like the TOS uniforms, just a bit modified to look disco style, which I think is great. I don't think people should actually be complaining that much about the uniforms. I mean, it's logical that they will change. It's just happening. I mean, uniforms in real life, military, it's changing too.
Yeah, no, you're right to say that. I mean, it's uniforms. Just from one of my time in the service that I'm in, and like we've changed uniforms 3 times since I've been and in a very short period of time. And you're right, Starfleet's not a military organization, but it is in essence very similar to that in a lot of ways. And a lot of the way it's operated, it has a lot of that heritage
Definitely
to it.
is.
To imply that it's just a military organization does it a disservice, but it has a lot of that heritage attached to it. That's where they built it off of, and uniform standards and stuff like that. Clearly, that's how that worked, and that's what they were kind of going with. And I think it makes sense that they changed the uniforms. The only thing that I didn't like about the Discovery ones is just that, simply put, the fact that I think that they're just a little too tight. I wish they were a little bit looser, if that makes
That's
sense.
true.
That's
Yes,
the only
that's true.
complaint I have. It's just that everyone's is like they just got done, you know, in the laundry and they went and dried up for too long and they're just like a little
That's true.
too
Yeah,
tight. Yeah, that's
that's
my
the issue
only
I'm
complaint about
having.
it.
That's the issue I'm having with my Discovery uniform. Just it's for me. It's not a really problem because I'm not really gaining or losing weight right now. But if you gain too much, the uniform simply wouldn't fit. Something I wanted to address that I just saw in the chat is
Mhm.
by Gaby Merida, and it's mentioned that Starfleet is future NASA, and NASA has uniforms. Enterprise bridged that into Starfleet's uniform stuff. Well, Starfleet, you can't really argue that Starfleet isn't a successor of NASA, but it is not formed or founded out of rests of NASA. So there's just that's what I wanted to clarify. Starfleet was founded separately and not really as a direct successory. It's just a direct successory to the United Earth Space Probe Agency.
That's very true. Yes, Semper Exploro, I think, was the whole. Who was using
Yeah.
that? Yeah,
Semper Explorer was United Earth Starfleet.
is that what that
I'm
was? Okay,
just, yeah, I'm just looking at the Memory Alpha page
gotcha.
because I wanted to clarify that. It's not completely true. NASA itself, I think, was actually um,
So I do want to address really
lost.
quick here, Michael Parker. Thank you for your $5 donation. You say here, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I can't stop thinking about a possible Quark or some other Deep Space Nine cameo following that Quark name.
Oh,
So I would say that it's definitely likely that we'll get somebody. I don't know if we're going to get any Deep Space Nine characters this season. My personal gut is that we still have the Rikers coming, likely at the end of this video, or excuse me, at the end of the next episode. At the end of this video, the Rikers are coming to this video. No, we're probably gonna get the Rikers at the end of next episode, and then we're gonna get their episode the following one, kind of going into episode 7. I don't think there's enough time to slip in any additional characters, but because we are getting a second season, which is confirmed, and possibly even a third or more, I think that there's plenty of time to bring in some Deep Space Nine characters, which they need to do, in my opinion. So
so Gaby again says, I meant figuratively, it's future NASA as opposed to future Navy in terms of its ethos. Um, well, in Star Trek, there isn't actually much to say about 2038. NASA is like the that's the last thing you got on NASA in Star Trek, which is a shame. It's a shame they didn't expand on it.
for sure, yeah. Maybe we'll get something more later on, but
Maybe that would be cool.
so to answer somebody's question about me being in the service, yes, the answer is I am in the service and I'm in the Air Force. Not the Space Force, not to be confused with the Space Force, which is a whole separate entity. So
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say about the Space Force, if you go
just
with a
one thing,
Delta,
huh? Okay.
if you go with a Delta, then just make it a bit more, a bit less obvious that you copy pasted from Star Trek. I mean, yes, the Delta looks different, but it's just so reminding me of Starfleet. I
Yeah,
hope they're not going to.
it's I don't think they're going to use a Delta, but obviously the logo is very Starfleet-esque. But they're not the
Oh
only
yes,
military
definitely.
agency to use that. There's quite a few different agencies out there in both internationally and U.S. side that use a variation of that logo for different things. So to me, it was not anything for me to observe that. It was like, yeah, I mean, of course, that's what it's going to look like. But I know to a lot of other people, it was very surprising. But
But to be
yeah,
fair, if I were to found space, either space research, space probing organization, I would definitely go full Star Trek on that one.
yeah,
I
yeah,
would so go for it. Even copying ship designs if it's possible someday.
yeah. No, yeah, definitely. So hold on, we got a question here. was CBS saying he is done after all that Twitter stuff? I assume you're referring to the original actor that played Icheb. I don't think CBS has made a official announcement as to why they decided to go with the other actor that played Icheb, actually, who was older. But my assumption is probably that had to do with it. I mean, trashing somebody who, again, whether you agree with what's going on or not, however your opinions on it, but making those statements publicly is going to make it difficult for you to maintain a professional connection to an agency. So I think that's likely why that's what happened. I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm talking about, GT, or not.
Well, I think Triangle actually addressed uh, with the whole Egypt not being played by the original actor thingy. Isn't it that one? This whole thing? I haven't been following this whole thing that, to be honest, I'm just on Facebook or Twitter when I really need to. Only I try to stay out of the social networks simply because I found it not very cool to hang around there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a bit annoying that so many people are just putting out rumors like crazy, not really justifying them
Mm-hmm.
in any way. It's just like it's a shame where we are going right now, actually, where some people are going.
No, that's very true. That is an issue that we are dealing with very, very regularly. So we're getting a couple of more questions here. Says, going off your conversation about the music, I agree that Russo is doing an amazing job. Actually often have the Picard theme in my head, as others have said. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the comment, Daniel. It says, since Maddox likely made Daj/Soji from Borg tech and knowledge of data, then could she be a bridge between Borg and humanity? Or how else would she be a threat, a future Borg queen? I have no idea. I don't know if you've got any good theories. I have no idea. Like, this is like such a blind spot to me. I don't know what the hell is going on, why she's the destroyers and what is going on. Obviously, he built them because it's his life work, but what they're doing now, what Soji's doing now, I have no idea. I don't know. I have no good theories.
I like Man of Sun's question. That's like really interesting.
Yeah.
Bridge to peace between the Borg and humanity. That's like having peace between a race that is basically relying on negotiations with a race that simply won't negotiate with you. But yeah, if you have like a cross between a human and somehow Borg or actually android style, that might actually work out. Well, we're gonna see it in Star Trek Picard, and maybe even get a reveal in season 1 on what actually is meant with the destroyer. Maybe she's going to destroy the Borg, maybe not. But what I wanted to address, what I read like on Twitter, this is another reason I want to get off Twitter for times, is the theory that has been curling around with the Romulans creating the Borg by Screen Rant, which was like the worst thing I've ever seen. I ever saw. I don't know. Have you seen it?
I did. I've actually been holding on to that theory myself, and not in the same way that they wrote their article. I did read their article, but I have been holding on to a similar style theory. Theirs was a little bit more kind of in depth and far out there, but part of the reason why I'm thinking that there may be something to do with it is the only reason that kind of the only bit of evidence is that I think it was in episode 2 where Laris says it's never been explained why they hate synthetic life. So my thought was, well, if they were responsible for creating the most dangerous form of synthetic-ish-esque life out there in the universe, maybe that's why they feel so negatively towards synthetic life. But that was like the only real bit of evidence that was attached to that. But that's a pretty far-fetched theory. I mean, there's no other supporting bits of information that kind of go along with that, at least as of right now. I know there was that whole thing attached to it too, is like, well, because the Borg are assimilated Romulans, that they had something in their DNA which caused them to break down and fall apart, which isn't the first time we've seen that in Star Trek, but I don't know if that's the case. I don't really know.
Well, the thing is with the Romulans creating the theory is that how would we know that the Borg are way older than what we've seen. There's like an entire history dating back to the Borg assimilating species when the humans didn't even have any kind of space flight, where like in the medieval ages, etc.
Right.
What's kind of what's definitely annoyed me about this theory is that it was kind of ignored that the Borg themselves originate in the Delta Quadrant. So the big question is, how would the Romulans create a species that is in a Delta Quadrant where we actually know of the Romulans that they don't have any technology capable of taking them to the Delta Quadrant? And also, why acting so surprised then when the first contact between the Federation and the Borg is established? Because if you created something and you regret it so much, then you probably would actually tell even an organization that you personally stand against that that's your fault, basically. I mean, I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
think they would
I'm.
tell the Federation. I mean, they really hate the Federation. But I see what
The
you're
thing
saying,
is,
though. Yeah.
do they hate the synthetic lives even more than the Federation, or do they hate both equally and simply care? Because I don't think that would ever stop if they get the entirety of the Federation. Would they
Yeah.
stop? Nah. I think they will just go on. Let's destroy the Romans. But we're gonna see
Yeah.
what is going to be up with the Borg. I'm really curious, and I simply can't wait for the next episodes of Star Trek Picard. It's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
shame that it is ending that quickly. You know, you have like a month, more than a month, Star Trek Picard happening. Then you have to wait probably another year till the
For
next
sure.
season airs. But yes, we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
Discovery in between. But
Yes.
it's kind
Discovery
of a
will be
shame.
a great distractor. So,
Oh
Adam
yes.
Brewer, thank you so much for your donation for your HUF of 2000. I don't know what currency that is, but it does say, did we actually see Seven die at the end of the episode? No, we did not see
No.
Seven die at the end of the episode, and no way on earth did they kill her off camera.
Well, I mean, on
Nope,
IMDb,
no way, no
right?
way.
I mean, on IMDb, it still says that Jerry for
Right.
4 more episodes, so that would be kind of weird. And actually, killing off a character like Seven, that would be, I probably that would something that you wouldn't do as a showrunner. I wouldn't do that.
No, 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 no,
You can
no,
do it
no.
to
Yeah.
everyone else, but not Seven of Nine.
Seven of
People
Nine,
simply
yeah,
like her too
she'll
much.
definitely be back, like you said, from the IMDb page. But even that's the case, like I would be floored if they even attempted to kill her this season. No way they're gonna do that. My current theory
No.
is the next character to bite it is probably gonna be Hugh. Hugh's probably gonna bite it. Most likely in the next episode
Yes.
or the episode
Yes.
thereafter. He'll probably the one to die. And that's gonna be really hard to
A
watch
shame.
too. That's gonna be hard.
I mean, it was hard watching Egypt die, but now, then Hugh. That's yeah. But when we are at the name Hugh, let's go to another character. Q. Sorry, I had to do that.
It's okay.
That would be cool if we would see Q too, you know? That would be extremely cool.
I'm
Maybe
still of
not
the
this
belief
season, but next
that
season.
I think he's going to show up. I'm still of the belief that he's going to show up probably at the end as a hook for second season. Obviously, we still had
That would be
those
great,
leaked
yeah.
photos of somebody wearing like a big red glove holding a similar style looking staff to the throne from the trial from Q of humanity. And we have not seen anybody in the show up to this point that was wearing those kinds of gloves. So I still think that that's Q. I think we're getting Q. I'm still supporting that concept. I still am
Yes,
holding
we
out
will.
for a possible reveal of Sela. I know that that seems to be less and less likely, but I'm still holding out for it. So,
So somebody, not you, is saying that he hopes that we Klingons. If we see the Klingons, that they won't be the ones from Star Trek Discovery. Well, they won't. As far as I know, they will look like they did in TNG. And actually, I think that this was addressed by Alex Kurtzman himself, I think,
yes.
quite
Yep.
often,
Yep.
that the way species look simply makes sense on a scientific standpoint, because if you have a colony not on Cronus or something, if you have a different colony and you're growing up on it, you're growing up in a different condition, which obviously makes sense that you will look differently. The same thing is for Elnor. He didn't grew up on Romulus. I don't know what makes Romulus look like they do on Romulus.
Right. Right.
So it makes sense, you know, from a scientific point of view. It definitely makes sense. I mean, we have on Earth, that's like the best, even the best example we can do.
Right.
We have different humans themselves are differently. I mean, I'm from Europe, I'm different than a person from China. That's a minor difference we have, but still there is one.
Right. Yeah.
So I
Right.
don't have an
Right.
issue with Klingons looking differently or Romulans looking differently. It makes sense, that's the thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, even in this context of Picard, they made the Romulans look slightly different, where Laris says the noticeable forehead ridges means that they're northern Romulans. That's what Zhaban has and the other Zapvash guy. Like, they have those forehead ridges. So there's even different types of Romulans kind of running around, which again makes sense when you really think about it. And I think Alex Kurtzman even went on record prior to Picard airing. He said I think it was Alex Kurtzman that said it. It may have been Akiva Goldsman, but I think it was Alex that said that if Worf shows up, he would look like he did from the Next
Yeah,
Generation. He
it
went
was
he went
Alex,
on
right?
that. Yeah.
It
So
was
he
Alex.
did I would say, yeah, he definitely is cognizant of the idea of bringing Worf on screen, which I think we might see. I think that's a very strong possibility that we may see him. We know from The Last Best Hope, the novel, that he is the captain of the Enterprise currently. Um, so it's possible that the Enterprise may show up at some point.
Yeah, we're
And
gonna see the Enterprise at some point, definitely. You can't
yeah,
do a Star Trek Picard show without the Enterprise.
I think we might see it. I think that there's a very strong possibility that we'll see the Enterprise and with Captain Worf. So that'd be really cool, and hopefully maybe that'll be what happens at the end. Maybe he gets into a badass space battle. He needs the help
Maybe,
here.
yes, that would be cool.
That would be.
So we have another great question by Man of Sun. Why did Dr. Jurati tell Maddox she wished she knew what she now knew when she killed him? What does she know? Is it something Commodore O told her? What could it be? That's interesting.
I haven't.
I
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I have
even
no
if
idea.
many people had a theory on Dr. Jurati not being, being somehow put into the whole thing with I actually still say that hoping that she wouldn't because I liked her character in the beginning really much. And it was kind of I always was thinking, please don't make her following O's command because I really disliked O in the first episode she appeared. I was just thinking, boy, what the hell is going on with Starfleet now? Because it's a kind
Yeah,
of shame
yeah,
that what is happening with Starfleet in general. It's kind of a shame. The Admiral Clancy,
yeah.
I addressed that in my review on member. Uh, that this Admiral, or actually, I think that was the second. Yeah, that was the second episode. I addressed that in the review, in the live review I did. Um, that this Admiral, that Starfleet is simply falling apart. It's just completely corrupt. And it is kind of a shame that it is happening to something we know managed to survive like centuries of peace, obviously, but also of war. And not an enemy destroying Starfleet, but Starfleet breaking apart from its side. I mean, at some point you have like either the Tal Shiar or the Jadwash doing to Starfleet, but still, it is happening from its side, and that's the
Yeah.
shame thing.
Yeah, I don't know what level of the corruption there is, but it's definitely going to
It's
obviously get
definitely
worse.
very high.
Yeah, it's definitely there for sure. And I'm curious to see what's going on. Agnes has definitely went from one of the kind of more free folk like characters to being one of the more interesting ones as to what the heck is going on. Because even
That's
before
true, yes.
the whole mind meld situation, she had already concealed the fact that she was in a relationship with Bruce Maddox from Picard. So she was already out of the gate now lying to him and concealing things. But why she's doing that is very, very questionable. But I do want to go ahead and get to Adam's question here. Thank you so much again for your fantastic donation. It says, are we expecting the whole Sim Sister / Mars Attack storyline to resolve by the end of the season and they'll start from scratch in season 2? I would say yes. I think that they're going to kind of get a good ending to this, but then tease us with a larger second plot point that will kind of pull us back for the second season. I think that we're going to resolve this Mars Attack thing, though, in this season. Maybe not the whole Sim Sister thing, but definitely the Mars Attack thing, I think, will be in this season. What do you think?
I also don't really think that the plot that is going on in Star Trek Picard now with basically the quest to find and get Soji to safety is not really the plot. I think there's
Yeah.
something bigger, a much bigger game going on, which I really want to see turn out because I think this is something that probably endangers the entirety of the Federation, maybe even going beyond that. And this brings me to something that Reinhardt68 posted. And that's there are people who say that they don't like the way Starfleet is portrayed on Picard, and he also says that they need to watch episodes of TNG and DS9, where Starfleet actually was a bit of the thing, that's caused really, really bad things,
That's very true.
which is
They've done
true.
some they've done some shady stuff, and usually, especially in TNG, they kind of tone it down. I think for Deep Space Nine, but for TNG, whenever the admirals showed up, it was always a problem. Like
Yes,
99%
every
of the
time.
problem, the admirals were showing up, and it was an issue. They were doing something wrong. Yeah, that's very true. That is very
You
very
know,
accurate.
when I would be a Starfleet captain, I would simply not let any admiral on my ship. That's
Yeah, seriously.
always an issue, you have to deal with. But I mean, in DS9, Starfleet, I mean, did Cisco tell anybody except for Garrick that, or actually Garrick, I mean, Garrick basically bombed this Romulan guy to drag the Romulans into the Dominion War. But I mean, Cisco knew that, and probably after the war, it was somehow resolved, and more Starfleet personnel knew that.
Yeah.
But I mean, as long as it serves Starfleet purpose, it is fine for Starfleet. That is why Starfleet, for instance, doesn't have any issues with Section 31 in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I mean, Cisco even asked the Admiralty about them, and they simply don't know about it. As long as something serves Starfleet's interests, it's definitely okay for Starfleet. It doesn't matter how bad it is or how wrong it would be, if
Right.
that makes sense.
No. Yeah, that does make sense. It really does. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then obviously, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if they bother to lay some more of the groundwork to the Federation splitting apart that leads us into
Well, my
Discovery
call
season
is
3.
that if we get if they follow up the tradition with 7 seasons per Star Trek show, we might even see at the end of Star Trek Picard like the Federation and Starfleet going down. That might be like the thing happening
Yeah, they won't.
really
I don't think they'll
visibly.
do 7 seasons of Picard, or only because our boy Sir Patrick has. I think he's just turned what,
Yeah,
81. I think
that's
he's not going to be doing this when he's going to 90. I think we've got. I think it's safe to say max we've got probably 3 seasons with him, which is fine by me. Even one season was a gift.
what I call
But
what might even happen is that they might not even really stop doing Star Trek Picard. Maybe do another show that is set directly after it, or somehow um, crossing into it that explains the downfall of the Federation, or maybe Discovery just focusing on it, solely focusing on it. But it doesn't really matter because we still have enough Starfleet or enough Star Trek shows happening. Not only Discovery,
yeah,
Section 31, Lower Decks. We have maybe, hopefully, a Pike show. Um, it's just it's just a lot we get to watch, and
yeah,
I definitely think that it is a really good thing, and it's a pretty big gift that we get to see Patrick Stewart as Picard
yeah.
again.
I agree.
If it won't be 7 seasons, then it doesn't matter. The show is good, even if it just would be 1 season.
Hmm.
Just create a story arc that is solving itself, and don't do the same thing that you know they did to Enterprise, canceling it after the 5th season, not really resolving the show. I mean,
I
we
don't
have
think
the
we're gonna get
Romulan.
that. I think we're gonna get a solid ending,
We
no
get
matter
an
what.
end,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
still a shame for Enterprise. No Romulan Earth or
Yeah,
shame.
I know. We could have had something really special there, but all right, man. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream now. I know the stream health has been kind of shoddy so far. I think we've tortured people enough with this garbage internet connection that I've got here, but I did want to go ahead and thank you for coming on and chatting with me today. I know this wasn't the original plan for today, but hopefully we'll be able to get some more of our technical issues squared away, and we can actually do what we wanted to do initially sometime soon. But why don't you go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you out there on the interwebs?
Well, just type in German Trekkie. Just type in https dot slash youtube.com/forward German Trekkie. That's how you can find me. I'm just doing Star Trek content like this a bit differently, doing some gaming, a sci-fi crossover show I plan to run, which is set in Star Trek's 31st century,
Mm-hmm.
but not in a prime timeline because then Discovery would somehow, interfere with what I'm doing,
Yeah,
which I
no,
had to move away.
no,
But
that
yeah, I
makes
hope
sense.
we can do this kind of streaming more often. I like doing that. Discussing it went actually quite good. Doesn't matter if it's not the way we planned on doing it, actually. It was
Yeah,
still
yeah.
great and cool discussion to have.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, and I really enjoyed chatting with you, and I look forward to doing this again. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody who tuned in as well, and who also provided those amazing, fantastic donations. Thank you so much. Those help keep the lights on here, and I really do appreciate it. And I thank you guys and gals for participating in our discussion, kind of keeping